If you've ever wanted to make some bomb compost like what you see right here, but you've never been able to get the recipe down or the timing down or the temperatures or anything like that, if you struggle with compost in any facet, then this video is for you, because today I'm giving you the exact measurements, the exact times, and the exact temperatures that you need to make some awesome fall compost and get ready for next spring's growing season. So here's what we have as far as ingredients. We have 2 buckets of manure. We have 3 buckets of green, which in this case is going to be chicken bedding with a lot of manure on it. So we're counting it as a green as opposed to a brown or carbon. So green, nitrogen, this is going to be chicken bedding with a lot of manure on it. And then we have our carbon, which is just cut, you know, grass, animal bedding without poop on it, grass, hay, straw, leaves, bamboo leaves, it could be whatever, but this is going to be our carbon. Now the difference between this batch, what you see right here, and what we did earlier this spring is that this batch is going into colder seasons. So we took 1 bucket from the carbon and we added it to the green and the high nitrogen. So we got a little bit more green, a little bit more high nitrogen than what we did before, where we had 6 buckets of carbon, 6 buckets of carbon, 3 buckets of greens, and then 1 bucket of high nitrogen. We now have 5 buckets of carbon, 3 buckets of green, and then 2-ish buckets of our high nitrogen. Now, before we get too far into this video, I wanted to let you guys know that there's a donor for Caleb House. And if you're unfamiliar with Caleb House, it's an organization that goes and saves kids from trafficking, brings them to a permanent home, and then they're safe and protected forever. It's an awesome organization. But right now till October 15th, there is a donor who's willing to match up to $500,000. So the closer we get to $500,000, the closer Caleb House gets to, you know, having $1 million, and they can save a lot of kids with $1 million. It'll be linked down below, Caleb House. Feel free to donate if you can, and if you can't, just spread the word. That's even better. Also, if you'd like an on-site consultation where I come to your property and give you a game plan of what to do, when to do it, and what order to do things, no matter what stage of homesteading you're in, then hit up the email down below. If you'd like a soil biology test where I, look at your soil underneath the microscope and determine what's there, what needs to be there, hit up the same email down below. And if you want to learn everything that I know about permaculture, hit up the permaculture design course on Patreon down below. You can get in for as little as $5, and you can even become a consultant yourself through that program if you'd like. So that being said, let's get back into the fall compost recipe, we'll call it. So like I was saying, these are the 3 ingredients, the 10 overall buckets, and this will be the same unit of measurement throughout this whole composting process. Now we'll repeat this. This isn't enough right here to create at least 1 cubic yard of compost. We need at least 1 cubic yard to house the microbes that we're trying to grow, no bigger than 3 cubic yards, because then we can spontaneously combust. Now to house all of these ingredients, I've got a compost cage right here, which is just old welded wire. So it's generally going to be 47 inches tall and then about 4 feet in diameter. You can go a little bit bigger if you want to. You can go a little bit smaller if you wanted to, but this will give me over 1 cubic yard. And then if you cut a piece that's bigger than what you need, then you can overlap it and then you can adjust the sizes as you need to there. But this was just a scrap of welded wire fence. This is something that a lot of people overthink. It just needs to be fenced that can stand up on its own with small enough gaps to not allow a lot of the materials to fall out. So you could, let's say if you have woven wire fence with larger gaps, like 4x6 gaps, then you can line the inside with some hardware mesh, hardware cloth, chicken wire, whatever it may be, just something with smaller holes, but you want plenty of airflow going through this pile. So fence, 47 inches tall, about 4 feet in diameter. It needs to be at least 1 cubic yard and you're good to go. Now let's get into assembling everything. All right, so first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take our 5 carbon buckets. And also an important thing to note is that all of these buckets I filled up with water and I let them sit and soak overnight, so that way they can rehydrate to perfect 50% moisture content, which is what's perfect. Remember, we don't want dry ingredients, we don't want too wet of ingredients. We want 50% moisture, which is exactly what this comes down to if you soak it in overnight. And you can apply it however you want to. It's not going to change the effectiveness of the compost. You can apply all of this however you want to, but the reason I do it this way, the reason I do the carbon first, is so that way I can capture that manure that I'm going to dump here in a minute. After the first flip, it's all going to get mixed up anyway. I just want to make sure that that manure isn't flying through. And then grab my pitchfork, just kind of even everything out. Make sure there aren't any gaps or voids or anything like that. I want everything in contact with each other. There we go. And now I'm gonna move on to my greens, which in this case is going to act as my chicken bedding. But your greens could be grass clippings, it could be really anything. Could be garden waste. There's really no limit to what your greens can be. And if you're curious about the carbons or the greens, just look up a chart for compost. There's plenty of like greens and browns charts for compost that gives you exact ratios and tells you what ingredient would be what. Now, depending on the season that you harvest this, so if I were to take, you know, grass clippings early spring, that is going to be higher nitrogen than my grass clippings late fall. Now, the reason for that is that as the plant gets older, it increases the carbon structure. There's more carbon in the actual structure as the plant gets older. So your carbon and nitrogen ratio is going to be a little bit off. So I just went through and evened out this chicken bedding. Now I'm going to add my cow manure. Now with this, you got to be careful that it doesn't splash back on you. So come up with that, whatever method you need to make sure it doesn't splash back on you. And I think I already failed. There we go. And if it comes out like that, then you can always spray out the buckets. And all of these buckets, after I'm completely done, I will spray out and put into the compost cage. Oh, I broke rule number 1. I just splattered my legs and my shoes with cow manure. You'll see that? I got it all over. All this can be sprayed off, so not the worst thing in the world, just slightly annoying. Well, anyway, spread this stuff back out. Oh crap, I got more in my shoes. Spread this crap back out, literally this crap. Now that the first layer has been added to the compost cage of the 5 buckets of carbon, 3 buckets of green, 2 buckets of manure, after that's happened, I'm gonna repeat the process 3-4 more times, 2 to 3 to 4 more times until this compost cage is full or at a volume that I want, right? Now keep in mind, everything is gonna settle. So just because I fill this up all the way to the top doesn't mean it's gonna stay at the top. So plan for that, overfill more than you think, because it's gonna settle and it's gonna compact. And if you're not careful, it could compact to something smaller than 1 cubic yard. So just keep that in mind. But now we're going to repeat this process. We're gonna do 5 more buckets of brown, 3 more buckets of green, 2 more buckets of manure, over and over again. And the reason that this recipe is different than the summer recipe is that this, we need the extra oomph or the extra heat or the extra energy to make it past those cooler nights, because we don't no longer have like the summer heat to kind of help us push along into those the specific heats we need, which we'll go over in a minute. So now we're having to use the nitrogen as food to keep the heat going a little bit longer and get us past those cold nights. So time lapse right about now, and I'm gonna fill this cage up and then we'll talk about the next steps. All right, so there is 1 completed compost pile. In total, it was about 30 buckets worth of material. Now you can go up to 40 buckets, you can go up to 50 buckets, whatever it may be. It's completely scalable because we're using 10 buckets as our base measurement, right? Now, whenever you're filling these buckets, remember you want to compact them to similar amounts. Like you don't want to go heavy compaction on your greens and then light compaction on your browns. You want to keep a consistent compaction level throughout the buckets. So whatever you compact 1 to, you need to compact the rest to, just to make sure everything is even and is keeping the appropriate ratios and everything like that. Now, this is the fall 10 bucket composting system, where you use 10 buckets as your base measurement, and you can build your pile however big you want to, up to 3 cubic yards, and then as small as you want to, down to 3 or to 1 cubic yard, right? Now that this is built, what are the next steps? We're going to cover this with a tarp, and we've already watered it enough. That was the whole point of saturating the buckets at first, was to water everything to a perfect 50% moisture content. So we don't need to add any more water. And ideally, if we did everything right, we won't need to add any more water throughout the entirety of the flips of this compost, right? So we're gonna let it sit. We're gonna cover it up with the tarp. We're gonna let it sit, and we're gonna let the center of this compost pile, so you'll need a thermometer, it needs to reach a minimum of 135 degrees. Or 131 degrees, I'm sorry. So 131 to 145, it sits for 3 days and then you flip. 145 to 155, it sits for 2 days and then you flip. 155 to 165, 24 hours, anything above 165, immediate flips. Now, you only need, so right now the center is going through that hot process, right? If you picture this compost in 3 different parts, each part is going to go through that hot thermophilic phase before it goes through, and then it just sits to cure. So you only need to flip it. So right now the center of this pile is going through that hot thermophilic phase. You'll need to flip it one more time, and then the top will go through that thermophilic phase, and then one more time after that, and then the bottom of the pile will go through that thermophilic phase. I have videos on how to flip your compost and all that stuff. That's not really what the point of this video is, but that's what we're waiting on now. We're waiting for the center of this compost pile to reach at least 131, and then the clock starts ticking. So again, 131 to 145, 3 days, and then you flip on that 3rd day. After that, 3 days is up. 145 to 155, 48 hours or 2 days. So as soon as that 48 hours is up from the point of you measuring, that's whenever you flip. And then 155 to 165, 24 hours. And then anything over 165, you just go ahead and flip it immediately. The reason you flip immediately is because you're approaching 171, where this starts producing alcohol vapors, and those are combustible at 171, and we want to avoid a compost fire. So with all that being said, if you have some compost you'd like to test, or if you'd have some soil you'd like to test to see what kind of compost you need to make, then hit up the email down below, as well as for on-site consultations. If you need an on-site consultation, you're kind of stuck, you don't know what to do, when to do it, or where to do it, hit up the email down below. Online permaculture design course. And thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next time.